super happy that you're here. And I am going to give you the recap for April 13 of the trial of Lori Vallow. And I also want to give you an updated timeline because I feel that it goes together with Melanie Gibb testimony. I tend to call her Melanie Gibbs, but it's actually Melanie Gibb, okay? In 2019, I mean, this happened fast. In January 31, on January 31 of 2019, Charles Vallow pleads with Lori to receive mental health. Her husband, and this is how fast things in this woman's life happen. Her husband, Joseph Ryan, had died in April of 2018. In October of 2018, Shad and Lori they had met in several conferences, but they start discussing their religious beliefs to justify the disappearance of the kids. And of course, this timeline has been revised now with what we're hearing in the court, right? These are things that we didn't know before, but as early as October of 2018, then in January of 2019 is when Charles Vallow starts saying, Lori, get some help, get some help, get some help. But she goes to a mental institution at Community Bridges, and at the end of January, and they discover that, by the way, all this noise is because I have a brand new baby living in my house. I'm trying to help a poor lady that just delivered a baby. And so that's why there's that ambience sound in the background. So that's January. In February, Charles really freaks out because Lori Vallow has started to tell him that he is possessed with a dark spirit, and that if he gets in her way, she is going to kill him, right? And so he files for divorce, and he starts talking to his family immediately, sending them communications and saying, hey, this is what's happening. This is what she's saying. He files for divorce in February, and Lori disappears for 2 months. She leaves her children with other people, but she disappears for 2 full months. Where is she? Hawaii. What is she doing in Hawaii? It is perceived that it might have been a getaway between her and Shad, because she lived in Arizona and he lived in Idaho, and this would be a neutral place and maybe a place where they dreamed about their future wedding together. Around June of 2019, Melanie Boudreaux and her husband, Brandon Boudreaux, decide to get a divorce. Now we know, based on Brandon's witness testimony, that Melanie had been keeping him at bay with everything that was happened. He had even requested her, like, can I go to these meetings? Because she used to not even like church. And all of a sudden she was like super into it. But when he tells her that some of the things that she's saying sound like a cult, she gets angry. They determine that he's gone to the dark side, and she files for a divorce. On July 11th, less than a month later, Lori's brother Alex Cox shoots and kills Charles Vallow, right? Saying that it's self-defense. We've seen the video of just 1 or 2 days earlier where Lori had cleared his bank account and he's begging the police to do something, and the police are like, not sure what they can do. Lori is very convincing, very eloquent, and convinces them that everything is right with him. So this is July 11th where Alex Cox, Lori's brother, kills Shad. Just a few days later, Shad sends a multiple text to Lori. They have to do with a romance novel He is still married to Tammy, but he is writes this love story between James and Alina, the names that he reportedly uses to substitute for himself and Lori, and some of them are very graphic. Think about that. Her husband just died, but she's exchanging love notes with someone who happens to still be married. On September 8th, Tylee, JJ, Lori, and Alex Cox visit Yellowstone National Park. Officials are saying that this is the last time anyone saw Tylee alive. The FBI has been asking for help for anybody who may have photos of the family taking the day in the park. It is not clear, unless it may happen in the trial, that they obtain any of those. In September 8th, on September 8th of 2019, Shad signs an application to increase the life insurance for Tammy to the maximum allowed on the policy. That is September 8th. Remember, on July 11th, just a few months prior, Charles Vallow got killed. On September 9, phone records place Alex on Chad's property. One day after he increases her life insurance. On the next day, phone records place Alex on Chad's property in the general area where investigators would eventually find Tylee's remain. Remember, on that same September 8th, while Chad is increasing the application for Tammy's insurance policy, on that same day, Tylee, JJ, Lori, and Alex are visiting Yellowstone National Park. And so on this next day, phones records place Alex on Chad's property in the same general vicinity where investigators would eventually find Tylee's remains. On that same day, Chad texts Tammy saying that he shot a raccoon and buried that raccoon in their pet cemetery. And that's so sad. Lori enrolls JJ at Kennedy Elementary School in Rexburg, Idaho, on September the 3rd. But less than 3 weeks later, JJ attends class for the last time, and his mother unenrolls him, saying that he would be homeschooled. And this is why this whole alibi that she has going on, that she says that she has zero understanding of what happened, it really doesn't matter, because it is very clear that she did things that demonstrate a criminal mind. And one of them, she withdrew her kid from school. She returned his pet, his service pet. Unbelievable. She also told a lot of people that Tylee was enrolled in BYU, Idaho, but Tylee has now been discovered was never enrolled in that university. On October 1st, moving right along, Lori rents a 10 by 10 storage unit from self-storage in Rexburg, and surveillance video finds her and Chad and Alex visiting this facility and putting a bunch of like kids' toys and kids' supplies and clothes, and yeah, you get the picture. That's October 1st. On October 2nd, Brandon returns from the gym to his Arizona home, where he says he was shot with a bullet and that missed him by inches. And he notices that the gun that shot him comes from a Jeep that looks just like the one that he knew Tylee was driving. On that same day, guys, October 2nd, on that same day, Lori is purchasing a wedding ring on Amazon, later seen on her finger at her beach wedding with Chad. On the same day, October 2nd, Tammy was perfectly alive. That's October 2nd. On October 9th, Tammy DeBell calls 911 and says that a masked man shot at her in her driveway. She thinks it's a paintball gun. Now everybody knows that it's not. It wasn't a paintball. He saw the guy completely covered and assumed that it was a paintball, but that's not what it was. He was just trying to hide his identity. That's October 9th. Guys, 10 days later, Chad calls 911 and says that Tammy has died in her sleep. at their Salem home. Detectives visit the home, and investigators originally ruled the death as accidental. The coroner does not perform an autopsy. Tammy is buried at the Evergreen Cemetery in Spring Hill on October 22nd. But 2 weeks after Tammy's death, Chad and Lori are married in Hawaii. Remember that Hawaii where she was gone without trace for 2 months? Yeah. For 2 months, she was there. Nobody knows what she was doing, but now on November 5th, she is back and she is getting married to the love of her life. She bought those rings almost a month before Tammy Daybell was dead. On November 26th, the Rexburg Police Department conducts a welfare check for JJ at the request of his grandparents, Larry and Kay Woodcock. They have not spoken to the boy in months, so they are concerned. On November 27th, following the report, the Rexburg Police Department serves a search warrant. Why do they serve a search warrant? Because when they go to talk to them, they tell them that JJ is with Kay and Larry. And they're like, no, that's impossible. They're the ones that want the welfare check. And so because they're lying, they get a warrant, search warrants. And of course, this is where the defense attorney said, why did you want a warrant? What was the crime? And the attorney's like, kids were missing and they were lying to us. That's why. Court documents indicate that on December 1st, Chad American airline flight to Lihu, Hawaii. And of course, the children are nowhere to be found. On December 6th, Melanie Gibb contacts the Rexburg Police Department to say that Chad and Lori called her on November 26th and asked her to lie about the location of JJ, because one of the lies they had told the police is that JJ was watching Frozen with Melanie. And Melanie is like, And in a minute, I'll talk to you about what I think about Melanie and her witness statement. As deputies continues to investigate the Fremont County Sheriff Office, Tammy's body is exhumed on December 11th because by then they are putting all things together and they are realizing that there's something going on here and that Tammy's death might not be as accidental. On December 12th, Alex suddenly dies in Gilbert, Arizona at age 51. In a police interview, months after his death, Alex's wife, Solima Patenas, spoke with officers and says that a few days before Alex died, he told her that if anything happened to him, there was money in a bag for her hidden in a closet. He also said, I hope they don't make me the fall guy. You make your own conclusion. On December 20th, the Rexburg Police Department announces JJ and Tylee are officially missing. Police say that their disappearance is possibly linked to the suspicious death of Tammy. Give me just a second. Mami, ¿puedes no hacer eso? Estoy grabando un video y estoy escuchando. Pues. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. So they declare Chad and Lori as people of interest in the disappearance. On December the 23rd, the attorney representing the Daybells releases a statement calling the parents loving and devoted. They may not be involved in the search for their kids. They may be getting married in beautiful Hawaii, playing like everything is okay, but they are loving and devoted parents, and that these allegations are going to be handled. On December 30th, the Rexburg Police Department issues a news release saying that they have information indicating that Lori knows either the location of the children or what has happened to them. They call the lack of cooperation of the parents astonishing. Let's move to 2020. On January 7, Larry and Kay Woodcock traveled to Rexburg from their home in Lake Charles, and announced a $20,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of the kids. On January 10, Chad Daybell's brother, Matt Daybell, pleads for him to cooperate with the investigation. On January 10th, he says his immediate family had little association with Chad due to concerns about his religious claims and books. On January 25th, the Kauai Police Department serves Lori with a notice stating she must produce JJ and Tylee to the Idaho Department of Health and Family of the Rexburg Police Department within 5 days. And then on January 26th, That's the famous interview with Nate Eaton from Idaho News, where he's asking them, like, where are the children, Lori? Where are the children, Lori? And they say absolutely nothing. And Lori looks all like, you know what I mean? On January 30th, Lori misses her 5 p.m. deadline to produce JJ and Tylee. Kay holds a new conference expressing her disappointment. On February 3rd, East Idaho News visits the storage facility that I told you about, where they abandon all the property of the kids, all the toys of the kids, and releases it. On February 12th, Kay tells Idaho News that in February of 2019, Charles removed Lori from a 1 million life insurance policy. Kay was named as the holder beneficiary. We know because we've heard the recordings of the disappointment in Lori's voice when she realizes that Charles had changed her as the beneficiary of the insurance. She did not get the money that she got. She got money when she killed Tylee. She got money when she killed JJ. And they got money when they killed Tammy Daybell because Chad Daybell increased the policy, but it was too late. They couldn't do the same thing with Vallow because she couldn't hold herself from threatening him, and that had changed his mind about that. On February 20, the police in Kauai arrest Lori on a 5 million warrant. She is charged with 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children. She is also charged with arrest and seizures, resisting and obstructing officers, criminal solicitation to commit a crime, willful disobedience of court process or order. On February 26, Lori waives her extradition to Idaho after 6 days behind bar in Hawaii. The waiver comes after multiple attempts from her to reduce her bail have failed, and the judge is like, no, it's going to be $5 million. She continues to be interviewed. Nate Eaton attempts to speak to her. She refuses to speak. On March 6th is that day where we all got really mad because she makes her appearance, her initial appearance in Resbo Court, and she is wearing curly hair and makeup, and we're all like, what? What? Her bond is reduced to 1 million. On April 9, East Idaho News obtains a letter from the Idaho Attorney General stating that Chad and Lori are under investigation for conspiracy, attempted murder, and/or murder by the Idaho Attorney's General Office. On May 8th, the Maricopa County Medical Examiner releases Alex's autopsy. It says he died of natural causes, specifically blood clots in the lungs. Watch, guys. And this is just my allegation. I know nothing, but I guarantee you there is something wrong with that death, and something wrong with that autopsy. And my thought process is that when we are done with this trial, there's going to be charges against other people, and they're going to be charges associated with Alex Vallow's death. Let's see what else. Melanie Gibbs makes that interview with East Idaho News shortly after May 8th, where she comes clean. She came clean right after, hold on a second, guys. Yeah, she came clean also yesterday as a witness, but I have a lot of things to say. I don't trust her. Actually, let me just address it right now. And these, again, are my allegations, my opinions, and my thoughts. But she had to have some sort of like immunity, release from criminal responsibility, because it's very clear to me that the only reason she knows as much as she knows is because she was super involved in what was happening. It is reported that after the attempt against Brandon Boudreaux's life failed, she was one of the ones that was going around in houses and trying to find where he and his kids were. Guys, if Brandon Boudreaux had not been helped by his friends, he and his kids would probably be dead now. That's how dangerous these people are. And I also believe there are charges coming for Melanie Boudreaux. There has to be. There has to be. All right. So at 7 a.m. on June 9, the Rexburg Police Department, the FBI, and the Fremont County Sheriff's Office serves a search warrant at Chad's home. Within hours, investigators uncovered human remains buried in the property, later identified as those of JJ. Later, they find Tylese. Around 11:30 a.m. on June 9, Shad is taken into custody, not before he has this conversation with Lori where she says, "You want me to pray? You want to pray? Pray? To which God are you praying? You just killed your children. You just killed a bunch of people." And Chad is attempting to flee when they take him into custody. Thank goodness they had police stationed out there. On June 10th, he makes his first court appearance. The bail is set at $1 million. Memorials are set up along the fence on the next day in honor of Tylee and JJ. On June 29, prosecutors filed formal charges against Lori, including 2 felony counts of conspiracy to commit murder, the destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence. On June 2nd, prosecutors dismissed 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of children against Lori. On July 15, she pleads not guilty to the misdemeanor of resisting or obstructing officers, criminal solicitation to commit a crime, and contempt of court. On August 3 and 4, Shad's preliminary hearing is held in Fremont County. Friends, investigators, and witnesses testify, and edits conclude the prosecution has enough probable cause to advance the case to the district court. Lori waives her preliminary hearing scheduled on August 10th and 11th in Fremont County. The case automatically advances to district court. On August 21st, Shad appears for his district court arraignment before District Judge Stephen Boyce. He pleads not guilty to the felony charges. On August 27, Shad's attorney John Pryor asked Boyce to dismiss the entire case. Yeah, right. Madison County Prosecuting Attorney Rob Wolf files a motion on September 1st asking to combine the cases of Shad and Lori. He says the cases together will be more efficient. I think we all agree on that. On September 10, Lori is arraigned in district court where she pleads not guilty to the 2 felony counts of conspiracy to commit murder, destruction, alteration, destruction, and concealment of evidence. On October 19th, the anniversary of Tammy Daybell's death, first anniversary, her parents and siblings announced the creation of the Tammy Daybell's Foundation. On November 5th, East Idaho News obtains audio of Lori saying she was going to murder her third husband, Joe Ryan. I'm going to murder him, while speaking at a meeting in October 2018. Listen, as a pastor, I'm going to tell you something. I tell my people, don't put my eyes on me, put your eyes on God. But if you see me doing things that are inconsistent with the word of God, run. How can you follow? How can you even believe that somebody that talks openly about murdering a spouse is someone worth of you listening to? I don't know. Let's go to 2021. In January of 2021, an audio recording between prosecutor Wood and Summer Shiflett, Lori's sister, is released. Wood tells Summer that he plans to file conspiracy to commit murder charges against the Daybells, and Shad Daybell's attorneys make a big deal out of it. On February 4, the Fremont County Sheriff's Office announces Tammy's autopsy is complete, but the details are not released. We know now that they found that she was asphyxiated, right? And we know that because it was just declared on court the other day during opening statements. On March 22nd of 2021, Woods asks veteran Missouri homicide attorney Rachel Smith to assist his team in the case. On May 24th of 2021, a grand jury indicts Shad and Lori on several new felony charges, including first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Prosecutors announced the charges during a May 25th news conference, releasing the indictment containing additional information, but not as much as we have gained recently. On June 8 of 2021, Lori is committed to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, and she is deemed not fit for trial, and the judge agrees that she cannot assist in her defense. Then Chad pleads not guilty to all counts on June 9th. His children sit behind him in the courtroom. I'm sorry. On June 24th, a grand jury in Arizona indicts Lori for conspiracy to commit murder in the death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Prosecutors declined to press charges against Chad, saying there is no reasonable likelihood of conviction, though we know they were already having an affair while he was still alive, right? And that Chad declared him dark. and that the only way that he would be released from the demon was to literally be released from his body. On August 5th, the prosecutors announced that they are going to seek the death penalty against Chad, saying that the nature and magnitude of the crimes warrants the possibility of the highest possible punishment. In a September interview with 48 Hours, Chad's children say their father was framed and their mother died of asphyxiation. Denial is a powerful thing. Following a change of venue hearing on October 5th, Boyce rules the Daybell trial will be moved from Fremont County to Ada County. The Idaho Supreme Court approves the move to Idaho's most populous county in their desire to find jurors that are not already biased by all the publicity. On October 7, 2021, Chandler, Arizona police releases the entire case file for the investigation into Charles Vallow homicide. Included are gigabytes of never-before-seen video interviews, auto recordings, text messages, police reports. On December 8th, Boyce orders that Mark Means, Lori's attorney, can no longer represent her. And man, that guy was a circus on his own. I'm so sorry. Like, allegedly, in my very unprofessional opinion. I'm so glad that he was removed because this case is convoluted enough to be dealing with what I perceive as being such a big ego. In March of 2022, Arizona prosecutors announced they will not file conspiracy to commit murder charges against Chad in the attempted shooting case of Brandon Boudreaux. They cite no reasonable likelihood of conviction as the reason. Prosecutors do not announce if Lori will face charges, and frankly, it is perceived that Alex Cox was the person behind the trigger. They may or may not reopen the case. We shall see. But in my estimation, Melanie Boudreaux should probably face charges there, and Lori. On April 19th, my birthday in 2021, Lori is arraigned and she remains silent, and her attorney, Jim Archibald, asked Boyce to enter a not guilty plea on her behalf. On April 28, Boyce denies a request from John Pryor to have the indictment against Chad dropped. The judge denies that request and denies the request of having jury transported from Ada County to Fremont County. On May 2nd, prosecutors announced they would pursue the death penalty against Lori and asked Boyce to keep her trial together with Charles. We know at the end that both trials are severed at the request of Chad Daybell. We also know that the death penalty is no longer on the table for Lori because the prosecution failed to provide the defense with all the material that they would have needed to use in order to protect the record for appeal. In August, Lori appears again in court, smiling and wearing a band on her ring finger. She does not answer East Idaho News questions after the hearing. She's incredible. 2 weeks after the hearing, Lori's attorneys filed a motion asking that cameras be banned from the courtroom. Prosecutors support the motion as East Idaho News joins with over 24 and other media outlets and oppositions. I think that's why East Idaho News is doing such a great job trying to keep us posted because they kind of feel guilty for what they did. But that was the rationale behind it. On September 3rd, Colby Ryan, Lori's son, is arrested on 2 charges of sexual assault that are completely unrelated. But the charges are eventually dropped without prejudice, meaning that the prosecution can refile. You know, when it's without prejudice, it means that the charges can be refiled. So only God knows what it is. But I'm sure that this case has screwed up with this guy's head. On October 6th of 2022, Lori's case is put on hold due to competency issues again. A month later, though, she is found competent for trial, but the originally scheduled January start date is postponed until April 3rd, 2023. This brings us to 2023. On March 2nd, District Judge Stephen Boyce rules that Lori and Chad cases will be severed, will be separated. Why? Because it is perceived that they are going to have conflicting stories to sell. Boyce grants a motion for Lori's attorney to take the death penalty off the table, as I said earlier, because the large amount of evidence was turned over late and they do not have the ability to go through it before trial, given that Lori has invoked her right to a quick trial. And because of this, Lori's trial starts on April 3rd, and the rest is history. We've been talking about it. And let me just close this video addressing some of my thoughts about Melanie Gibbs. The first time I was introduced to Melanie Gibb was when she did that interview with East Idaho News. And I was amazed at the complete lack of remorse and accountability and her unbelievable ability to blame Lori and Chad and talk as if she had not been personally involved in all of this. And I saw the same thing yesterday. I think that she drank the Kool-Aid. She went with it. She was part of it. And then when she saw that the police was involved and that Chad and Lori were going to potentially get her involved because they told them that she was with JJ at the movies, and they called her and they said that at that time she put on her robe of self-righteousness. But I don't see regretting her. So it bothers me. It really does. It's almost like, you know, that is not okay. And in the call that she recorded with Lori and Vallow, like she's like, that's not of God. But the question is, would you have said that had it not been because you saw the police was getting involved and you may potentially get involved? And I guess in a way, we ought to be grateful that at the very least, she is a key witness in this case that is helping bring these people to justice. And for that, I am grateful. I just, again, I'm amazed at the complete lack of remorse for the role she played and her desire to completely separate herself from everything that happened. So I consider Melanie Gibbs a little bit of a Judas. And I'm not saying that Chad and Lori didn't deserve a Judas. They did. But I also resent her tone of self-righteous and I got it all together and I'm so smart. When she drank the Kool-Aid, she believed in all the stuff. And if she had approached the police, she could have saved lives. Because something that she keeps saying over and over and over again, she's talking about those demons. She's talking about the zombies. She's talking about doing this free, like like prayer meetings where they were trying to release people from the domination of these demons. If she had said what was going on, she could have saved lives. And I see zero regret, and it bothers me to no end. And so, for whatever's worth, another interesting thing that happened yesterday was that they interviewed the investigator involved in Charles Vallow's death. And it makes me chuckle every time I see these people because they had swallowed the story that Alex Cox and Lori had sold them, and they weren't going to investigate this. And the only reason they started investigating is because of everything else that came out. But they really didn't truly investigate this. And it's very interesting because the judge is telling the jury that they can only use what happened with Charles Vallow. They can only use it to assess or to establish or to confirm the fact that Lori has had the capability, the opportunity, and the wherewithal to commit a crime, but that at the same time, they should not use it to make a call as to her character. Honestly, guys, this is one of those legal oxymorons. I don't think you can do both. I don't think you can consider what happened to Charles Vallow, how he was murdered by his wife who was being unfaithful to him for months, how she abandoned her kids for 2 months and her family, and nobody knew what she was doing in Hawaii, which is the place where she ends up getting married later. I don't think you can consider any of those things without making a call about her character. And I hope the jury is doing just that. Well, this was a longer video than I had anticipated, but I wanted to give you an updated timeline. I hope that you find it useful. And I hope that you subscribe and find the playlist where all these videos are, because I've been covering the case on a daily basis. I love you guys very much. This was Pastor and Coach Gene McIntyre, former practicing attorney, coach, emotional intelligence certified practitioner, and a proud mama and servant of God. I love you guys, and I do not do cults. I do not do cults. And if any of you is interested in me getting really in depth into the beliefs of Lori and Chad and how they are blatantly contradicted by the word of God, please let me know and I'll do it. One of the things that I really appreciated about the testimony of Melanie Gibb yesterday was, at some point somebody said, so these things are consistent with the teachings of the Bible? And she said, no, they are consistent with the teachings of the Book of Mormon. I'm like, thank you. Because there's a lot of people out there that use the Bible, that use one verse of the Bible, they cherry pick it, and they come up with their own little strange doctrines. We don't need any more of that. And certainly, the Bible would not justify or ratify or confirm or affirm any of the craziness that went through. And shame on people who use the name of God to get away with this. And shame on those of us that don't do our homework and allow ourselves to be fooled. Grab your own Bible. They'll develop your own faith. And that will allow you to be able to identify a charlatan when you see one. That's my humble opinion. And I'm signing off now. This was Pastor and Coach Jenny McIntyre. I love you guys. Bye-bye.